And greetings. Welcome to The Dividing Line back here in Phoenix, Arizona, where it's 100 and who knows what outside. But hey, that's what summer's all about. Though I was not in summer most of this summer. I mean, okay, I was in Colorado, but it was, when you go to the southern hemisphere, it's the opposite season. And though it was fairly warm down there, I got up to 80 a couple times when I was down there. I didn't really get much cold weather there. And we will be headed, we just saw the announcement hit, we will be headed to Australia. We're going to go into Sydney and Melbourne in Australia. The funny thing is, I got to mention this, we tried to arrange a debate with Tim Staples while we were there because he's going to be there. Same weekend that I'm doing stuff and I'm talking about Roman Catholicism, they're just across town. And so it's a little bit weird that you'd have us all in the same place and there's no interaction, but we tried. And they said, well, no. So we did our best. Anyway, so we're heading to Australia and hopefully we'll have some details for you on what will be, and I'm sort of happy to note this, work is ongoing in arranging a debate in Salt Lake City immediately before the General Conference with two atheists. And it will be the first time that I get to team up with and work with my fellow pastor at Apologia, Jeff Durbin. So Jeff and I against two atheists in Salt Lake City. Now, you might go, Salt Lake City doesn't strike me. It should. If you know anything about how weird things are. Every Christian in Salt Lake City is a foreign missionary. They really are. Should be viewed that way anyways, because that's truly La La Land when it comes to any type of theology. So anyway, so before we do the General Conference and all that, we will be trying to arrange that. That will be moderated public debate number 170. Did 3 debates this past weekend in South Africa. And then just a few days after the General Conference, I'll be flying down to Australia. Then I've got, I think, 8 or 9 days home after that before I head back to the UK. And we have debates there. Then we've got the debate with Shabir Ali in Atlanta on the way back from the UK. And then one trip to St. Charles, like I do every year. And I think that's it until New Year's Day. And that's going to make that... Well, I just got notification. It surprised me. I was just sitting here and looked at the email real quick, and I'm executive platinum for the next year on American Airlines already. And it's only August. That means I've been in planes a lot recently. And it was just a number of hours ago, and uneventful trip back from Johannesburg. It is. I was thinking about it though. What an amazing day we live in. What a in some ways blessed day. That's my 6th trip to South Africa, and there's just been, when I think of some of the most encouraging things that have happened to me, I think of being at a church in South Africa about 3 trips ago, maybe 4. And I've mentioned the church before because it is about the most mixed congregation I can imagine. You've got blacks of every strain of black, because there's lots of different levels of blackness in Africa as far as skin tone goes. You've got Indians, lots and lots of folks from India. Many of them are former Hindus and things like that. And then you got white Afrikaners, and they're all in one room, worshiping together, singing together. And after the service, there was some refreshments outside. And these young black university students come up to me. And this is, like I said, this is a number of years ago. We've gone down to 6 times now. And so they say, if it weren't for the dividing line, if it wasn't for the issues that you address and the topics that you address and the encouragement you provide, we wouldn't make it through university, because everybody in the university is against us and against our faith, and your ministry has had a huge positive impact upon us. Well, this last trip down, I was, interestingly enough, on a Wednesday night, I was speaking on apostasy. I had spoken on apostasy, the Joshua Harris stuff and the Marty Sampson stuff, and I had preached twice at Antioch on Sunday morning, and then Wednesday night, I did some more stuff on Hebrews 6, and then we did some live questions. And another group of just exuberant young black men, university students, came up to me, and it was the same story. Your ministry has just meant so much to us. It keeps us going. And that kind of thing is just incredibly encouraging when you think about being able to go. As far as land places go, that's about the opposite side of the earth. I'd have to go a couple thousand miles west into the ocean to be on the exact opposite side of the earth from Phoenix. But as far as being on land, that's about as close as I can get. When I'm in Durban, that's about the opposite side of the planet from me. And I was there Monday evening, and it's Wednesday afternoon. Now, it's almost Wednesday night there, of course. There's a 9-hour difference. But it is just astonishing to think that you can... I mean, when missionaries had to go to places like that in centuries before, it was years of journeying and incredibly dangerous to be able to get to places like that. But now... we can go down there, and we had 3 debates, preached in a number of different places, preached in Phoenix, which is a suburb of Durban, and just reestablishing relationships with believers that we can then maintain through Facebook and other means of electronic communication. It is, when you think about it, it is an amazing day that we are able to do that kind of thing. And then we're, heading to Australia, and it's an even longer flight because it has to be direct. That's a tough one. 10, 11 hours is good. Once you get up to 14 or so, you're just starting to get a little stir crazy. That's just all there is to it. But that's what has to be done to get down there. So anyway, I got there on a Friday morning. And it's not so bad going that direction. It's going to Australia. You need more than one day to catch up, because you cross the international date line, so everything gets messed up. You're a day ahead, but 17 hours behind. So it's weird. You're the next day, but 17 hours behind of where you were, and your body just doesn't know what to do with all that. But I got there on Friday, and I was a little concerned. It turned out real well. Because we had scheduled the first and probably most difficult debate for Saturday evening, so hardly 24 hours after I got there. And so some of you may have seen the debate that we did 3 years ago with Graham Codrington on homosexuality. Graham Codrington is an internationally known speaker. He has, I believe, a master's degree in theology from the Baptist Union Seminary there in South Africa. And so he's well known in that community, but he has taken a very marked leftward lurch and direction over the past number of years. And so it was ironic that we can't get we can't get people like Matthew Vines to debate here in the United States, because from their perspective, they've already won the cultural argument. And so why should anyone worry about it? Let's not expose ourselves in that way. But so you have to go to South Africa to find someone who will debate this subject. And my recollection is that after that particular debate, I don't recall any explosions of vitriol or anything like that in regards to that issue. So I was really surprised when Graham Codrington wrote an article. Let me see if it, August 21st, 12:30 in the afternoon. Not sure what time zone that would be, but anyway, August 21st was when he wrote this. And the debate's already up. A lot of you have already watched the debate. It was very clear. He struggled greatly. Anyone who tries to present a positive case against the thesis that the Bible limits marriage to a natural man and a natural woman. We even had to use the term natural for the obvious reason that these days you can't just say a man or a woman. But that's a pretty tough road to hoe, because they're row to hoe. There you go. It's a farming thing. Because it's just so obvious that there are, I think, many people on that side that just admit, well, yeah, that's what the Bible teaches. That's why we need to abandon the Bible. But Graham has tried to present himself as an orthodox believer who is just simply inviting us all to think about a better way, a new way, without abandoning all of our faith, but just being more open. And that's the whole reason he did this debate, is he doesn't mind that he's on the short end of the stick. He just wants to get a few more people to think the way he's thinking. That's I really think that's his motivation. So the debate wasn't all that difficult. The inconsistencies in Graham Codrington's position were clear. I asked him during cross-examination what he would do, because he has written this out before. The idea is to emphasize areas of agreement. We agree on this. We agree on this. We agree on this. It's just this one area. Well, that's what he was doing. He was talking about how many times that, he agrees with me on this, and he agrees with me on the meaning of ars anokoites, and so on and so forth. And then once you've sort of disarmed everybody about how we're all in agreement, then you hit your argument and try to come up with a new way of understanding things. So to make a long story short, we got into cross-examination, and I asked him, I said, so if someone came up to you who was a binitarian instead of a trinitarian, how would you respond to them? Well, I'd take them to the scriptures. Now, he had said at the end of his opening statement, or was it the end of his rebuttal? One of the two. I think it was the end of his opening statement. He said that I was using the Bible as a mere rule book, which of course I was not. But I am functioning on the basis of sola scriptura. And one of the things this debate very plainly made clear is that he does not believe in sola scriptura, does not believe the scriptures are sufficient to address these issues. He goes outside of Scripture. There's no question about that. That was plainly evident in how the debate went down. And he had said, I'm using it as a rule book. And then he said, I know God, and I know God is okay with gay marriage. That was his argument. I know God, and I know God is okay with gay marriage. Which is an argument that could be used for anything. Obviously, anything. Anyone can say, I know God, and therefore I know God is okay with the fact that I have 100 sex partners of male and female, and maybe not even human origin. I know God, God's okay with it. Is that an argument? Of course not. Of course not. But he knows that in that debate situation, he's going to be forced to answer very serious questions. And so he took a particular direction. And it didn't work well. It didn't work well at all. It doesn't take a whole lot of skill on my part to present a very strong argument that Jesus taught a specific concept of marriage. And so, by the way, I have a picture up of Graham during the debate. my dear friend Rudolph, who, according to Uncle Bobby, is Randolph, but that's another issue we won't get into right now. But everybody in Durban is laughing right now. But Rudolph took this from the moderator's position, so it's looking out toward the audience, and he's actually he's turning toward me, because all the time he kept saying, Dr. White and I agree about this, and we agree about that, and that's probably what was going on at this point. He's also much taller than I am. I had to keep lowering the microphone. I felt like a little kid. But, yeah. So, anyway, but the debate itself was fairly controlled, I guess. It wasn't super fiery. I mean, I said a few things that more than once I thought, will this be my last trip to South Africa? With the things that I have to say, identified homosexuality as a sin, and somebody, one of the questioners asked me what I thought about a couple that decides just simply not to have children at all, and my answer was, it's foolish. And you should have seen people. How dare you say something like that? And I'm just sort of like, yeah, it's this thing about the Bible about children as a blessing from God, and and it's just so countercultural now, even amongst Christians, to even think along those lines. Obviously, being an Apologia, and the average number of kids there is about at least 6, is having some effect upon me. But anyway, I really wish we had more myself personally, but that's another issue. So we're working on the grandkids. So we could have, it would be nice to have some more grandkids too. Got to clear the throat there. Anyway, just a little grandfatherly pressure there. Anyhow, so it was calm. It was collected. We shook hands afterwards, and talked to people, and there you go. But I don't think it was really contested. I think we won clearly on any debate judge that just simply judges debates in a meaningful fashion would go, that wasn't really much of a contest, because it wasn't. So I was a little surprised when it was pointed out to me a few days later that Graham Codrington had posted an amazing article on his Facebook feed. And I linked to it earlier, and did you see Twitter? Oh, you're behind? Okay. And he says, for my Christian friends, here's the thought. In the aftermath of a formal debate I was involved in last week on the issue of gay marriage, a number of conservative Christians have told me that you cannot argue your case for gay marriage from silence, which he certainly was doing. He could not provide any type of meaningful, positive presentation. In other words, if the Bible doesn't say gays can get married, then they can't. That's immediately. See, this is not, what struck me is, this is not Graham Codrington's argument in the debates, because he knows he is a very intelligent man. And he knows that when he's debating someone who's done nearly 170 moderated public debates, as I have, and written 24 books, and taught at the graduate level for nearly 30 years now. Well, yeah, I think it is right 30 years this year. Anyway, he ain't going to get away with this stuff. I will shred him. Anybody who knows how to debate and argue and reason and think will just take him apart. So here's Graham Codrington doing damage control. He lost the debate, didn't make much of a presentation, couldn't. And so now what you do is, and this happens in politics every single day, you rev your base up. You throw red meat to them. You use arguments in your presentations that you never use in a debate, because you will get torn apart if you do. And that's what he's doing here. This is not the argument he made in the debate. It's not like he came up with something new. This is how he is demonstrating here that he recognizes that the people who support him in this are not logical thinkers. They're not, because this is the reason he doesn't present this is, as you're going to see, I'm going to tear it apart, because it's easy to do. Any logical thinker, any well-read person will tear us apart. And that's not arrogance on my part. I'm saying anybody could do it because it's illogical. It's irrational. It's incoherent. So, you cannot argue your case for gay marriage from silence. In other words, there is a fundamental presupposition that in light of the nature of Scripture, there needs to be a positive case. You can't just simply put something forward and say, well, I think this is good enough. No, for a Christian, we have something called Scripture, which is a light to our path. So, in other words, if the Bible doesn't say gays can get married, then they can't. No. Notice what he's done. He's completely shifted the grounds of evidence. He's completely shifted it. He knows that's not the argument that I made. And he knows anyone who watches the debate knows that's not the argument I made. So why is he taking this track? Because he couldn't defeat that argument in debate. But you can use emotions and really bad arguments to get people to stop thinking about what was in the debate itself. And that's what he's doing. The reality is the Bible gives a positive teaching about marriage. It gives a positive teaching about the relationship of males and females. It gives a positive teaching about the law of God. And the law of God has absolutely, positively nothing positive to say about homosexuality anywhere. Anywhere. And every attempt, there was a disgusting, vile, blasphemous attempt in the comments. This was the amazing thing. This guy just, Raymond de Villiers, presents this vile comment accusing Jesus and the apostles of really bad stuff. I'm not even going to repeat it. And having said that, Graham responded to him with a single line, "A new commandment I give you," and all that. He didn't rebuke him. He seemed to agree with him. It was stunning. Stunningly disgusting is what it was. I mean, that of anything demonstrates that Graham Codrington has left anything that could be called Orthodox Christianity. If you can have someone write something like that and you respond that way, don't talk to me about your orthodoxy. Don't even go there. You've taken the mask off and you've stopped pretending at that point. So, he goes on. Of course, the Bible doesn't say. Now, notice what he's done. He shifted the ground. So instead of dealing with the reality that there is a positive teaching on marriage, it's a definitional teaching on marriage, and there is a specific prohibition of the behavior. He's tried to say, no, has nothing to do with loving homosexual relationships. How many times now, guys? How many times since when did we do the Matthew Vines response? What year was that? I've lost track of it, but it was probably around 2011, I think. So we're looking at 8 years or so. We have been dealing with the reality that what they're going to do, their argument is, we're going to create a kind of homosexuality that we can try to sneak under the radar. And we're going to try to say, the Bible doesn't say anything about this kind of homosexuality. It's only talking about that kind of homosexuality. And of course, the kind of homosexuality that's the good kind of homosexuality almost doesn't exist in the world by every study I've ever seen. And that is a faithful, monogamous relationship. By every study I've seen, that's less than 1%. 99% of every study I've seen says that's not the experience at all. So we make this up to try to sneak something through. Was 2012? Okay, all right, 2012. I think he did. I think he may have given the talk in 2011, and I think we responded to it in 2012. But anyways, so it's been a number of years, and this is the argumentation. So, having shifted the grounds, he then says, of course, the Bible doesn't say you can have a heart transplant. Irrelevant, given the fact that none of them existed back then. Give blood, same thing. Drive a car, same thing. Eat broccoli, don't have to. Jesus, I mean, the law allowed for the eating of all those things given by God. Use credit cards, irrelevant, anachronism, or vote in democratic elections, irrelevant, anachronism. I mean, can you imagine offering that during cross-examination? No, he wouldn't do it. Knows better. Because these are not parallels by any stretch of the imagination. The Bible, Jesus himself, who Graham wants to, I'm still a follower of Jesus. I laugh at jokes that accuse Jesus of being a homosexual, but I'm still a follower of Jesus. I don't think for long, I'll be honest with you. I don't think for long. It won't be long till, he's off in the leftist wacko world and laughing at when he actually took seriously anything the Bible said at all. That's the trajectory he's on. And I think moved much more rapidly along that trajectory as a result of this debate. These are all anachronisms. They are not relevant to the fact that the Bible specifically has positive teaching on this particular subject. So he's raising irrelevant issues to try to confuse people. He thinks his followers, it doesn't seem to really respect them very much. If he's willing to post this kind of stuff. Because aren't they going to recognize the different argumentation here? Aren't they going to see through this? He must not think they can. But those points seem to pass these Reformed Christians by. These Reformed Christians by. And they're happy doing all those things. They are very, very good at picking and choosing which bits of the Bible they apply literally and which they don't. And they have one set of rules for things they believe and another for those who believe differently. Now, do you think he's going to back any of this up? Do you think he's going to try to demonstrate inconsistencies in my exegesis that I offered? No. You just throw it out there. This isn't for me. This is damage control. This is to get his followers going rah, rah, rah. And so they stop listening to what I actually said during the debate. Because he had no answers for what I said during the debate, whether it was during cross-examination or anything else. His answers to my questions during cross-ex were lame. My answers to his were perfectly consistent and fine. He doesn't want them doing that. He doesn't want them listening to that. So let's get the emotions going. That's the best way to do things. And if you don't see this in politics all the time, it's because you're asleep. You're not watching, because this is exactly what politicians do. But just for the sake of discussion, let's play this game their way. Since Jesus is the center of the Christian faith, and we look to him and his example and teaching, surely I can use this exact same argument back at them. Where in the Bible does Jesus ever speak against homosexuality? And where does any biblical author ever prohibit gay marriage? Again, totally begging the question. The reason he didn't do this during the debate is because it would have gone very, very badly for him. But now he's trying to get his followers excited. And so he's willing to abandon his own position, knowing that these arguments are bogus arguments, but he's willing to put them in print and leave them up there. I even left a note that I was going to review this material on the dividing line. He still left it up there. He doesn't care. He figures the people that he's trying to influence are not going to listen to what I have to say anyways, so he's safe. Where in the Bible does Jesus ever speak against homosexuality? He affirmed the law of God. I've said this many, many times, not just in this context. Anyone who makes this argument is biblically illiterate or a deceiver, one of the two. And he's not biblically illiterate. So he's being deceptive. Because any honest-minded person is going to know that Jesus affirmed the continuing validity of the law of God. He said, anyone that teaches you to break any one of these commandments is least in the kingdom of God. God's word's going to stand forever, etc., etc. The law is not done away with. It is fulfilled. Fulfillment is not a negative term. It means what the law said is true, and the apostles continue to make application of that moral law. Jesus did not in any way, shape, or form lessen the moral law of God. He fulfilled it by bearing the wrath of God in himself. But that's the whole point. When you start getting to the point of saying we can't define what sin is anymore, and that came up in the debate as well, you're in essence undercutting the cross itself. So, did Jesus speak against homosexuality? Yes, when he said God's law is good. When he said keep the commandments. He did, because that's there. There's no question about it, the fact that it's there. And as hard as Graham tried to separate Leviticus 18 and 20, there's two different laws, and there were two different contexts. And Leviticus 20 is for the people of God, and it's not in the context of Leviticus 18. And it prohibits homosexual behavior of any kind. There is no way outside of mere arbitrary assertion, and there's nothing historically to substantiate the idea that the Jews saw any kind of a distinction that he wants to try to make between merely cultic sex and some other perspective. And where does any biblical author ever prohibit gay marriage? Again, biblical authors define marriage consistently. The biblical authors had no concept of gay marriage. It's a violation of their understanding of male, female, covenantal nature of marriage, and that is why he lost the debate so badly. And anyone who tries to debate that subject will lose that debate so badly, as long as they're willing to debate someone who actually knows something about the covenantal nature of marriage and the relationship of the Old Testament law with New Testament revelation. So this is just purely begging the question. It is a capitulation. This was one of the few times I've actually had an opponent in a debate within a few days write something that was an absolute admission. I lost the debate in toto. That's what he's saying. That's what this is saying. It's amazing. At worst, even if you take the Bible entirely literally, good luck with that, by the way, it is impossible, and don't do any proper interpretive work. Notice he doesn't make any statements here about what I said. He made a comment at one point. At one point, he talked about how much study of Greek he's done. But at another point, he made a comment, well, I don't know it nearly as well as you. And I thought he was about to say something, because he sort of started to say something and then stopped. Well, actually, he did say something about, when I went through Matthew 19 and the other texts, all I had time to do, all I had was my iPad up there. In fact, I think, yeah. So that's my opening statement, and you can see that I have. Oops, I can't blow it up any more than that. You see that I have my iPad right here, and then my phone is my timer, and all I had on my iPad were the biblical texts, and they were in Greek. So I noticed him looking over there. He saw that. And so he made that comment. So he doesn't make any comment at all in this article about, well, you were wrong about that. So notice he's doing something general. He's saying, well, these Reformed Christians, this is what they do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So taking the Bible literally. Well, if what you mean by that is actually accepting meaningful hermeneutical examination of what the Bible says on a topic, yeah, we do take it literally in that way. And don't do any proper interpretive work. The most you can say is that the Bible is against same-gender sexual activity. Well, that's true. Congratulations. But anyone who thinks that being married and having sex are the same thing clearly have never been married and have done no theological or critical thinking on the matter. But at the same time, anyone who suggests that sexuality is not a part of marriage is also blowing smoke. And that's what Graham Codrington's doing here, obviously. That would be reductionist in the extreme. So go on, Reformed Christians. If we are not allowed to argue from silence, show me the verse in the Bible that allows LGBTQI people can't get married. And show me where Jesus ever spoke out against an LGBTQI person. Of course, I believe during the cross-examination, I had asked him if Jesus was truly who he says he was, the Son of God, he would have known that there were same-sex attracted people around him. Why didn't he stand up for them and deliver them at that time, rather than just simply repeating the traditional heterosexual normative views of his day? Didn't get much of an answer to that one either, because there isn't an answer to that one. There really isn't. I am so sick, he says, of Reformed evangelical Christians. I have much more time for ultra-fundamentalists who at least try and be consistent. They believe men are in charge. They keep their women pregnant and at home. They don't have TVs, don't listen to secular music. They only have friends from their own church. They're close to being Amish or closed brethren in many ways, but at least they're intellectually and theologically consistent and honest. Conservative, reformed, evangelical Christians, that would be me, are another breed altogether. Hypocrites, intellectually dishonest, self-righteous, proud Pharisees. You know, when you throw all that together and nothing in what you wrote before that provide any substantial argumentation, especially in light of I had laid out a case. If there's something wrong with the case, he failed in the debate and failed here to even make a dent in it. So you know what you're doing is saving face, damage control, rah your people. When you do that line, hypocrites, intellectually dishonest, self-righteous, proud Pharisees. But go on, give it a go, point to the verses in the Bible I must have missed. Well, Graham, it's not a matter of you missing verses. It's a matter that you're in rebellion against them, and you know it in your heart, and you're tortured about it. You have no peace about this. You're just trying to kill that conscience. And the only way to do it is to do what every other person who has gone off into wacko leftist liberalism before you has done. They silence that by stopping making any kind of public affirmation that the scriptures are actually the word of God. That's what you're going to have to do. That's what you're going to have to do. So, there you go. I was amazed. Again, Graham, you didn't have to, post something on Facebook that says, "Yeah, I lost that debate," but you did. You did. Maybe you didn't think that I would see it. Maybe you didn't think I'd review it. Maybe you don't care. I get the feeling you just don't care. You just don't care about it. Look, let me show you some other pictures. A week later, well, let's lighten it up for just a second. Check this picture out. I took this as I was getting ready to fly out of Joburg to Heathrow. This is Spurs. Now, this is in the Joburg Spurs called Soaring Eagle. Each one of their Spurs restaurants has a different Native American name. The one in Potchefstroom is Montana. This is Soaring Eagle. I forget what the name was in Randburg, the one that we ate at. I like Spurs. Their chicken quesadillas are actually really good. Their burgers are all right. Rockamama down there is better than Spurs as far as the burgers go. But anyway, can you imagine anyone getting away with this in the United States today? No way. Oh, Washington Redskins. They're going, hey, how they get away with that? But I mean, I think I took a picture of one of the menus, the very first. Here. There's that. Here's that. That's their actual. No, this is their salad and French fry dressing. Oh, yes, you are. Yeah. See, there's the actual. Notice it's trademarked. There's trademark right there. There's Spur, and it's the whole Washington Redskins thing on steroids. Oh man, that's Spur. Yep, and I love Spur. Spur's great. I really do think Spur's great. It's good stuff. Every time I've posted about, every time I go to Spur, here's that's the outside. Soaring Eagle, Spur steak sandwiches, Soaring Eagle. That's in the Joburg airport. Yeah, see, there you go, and you can see that's the thing I showed you just now, and I've eaten there many times. It's great. It's good stuff. All right, so some of you may have seen the story. I'm just going to ask you to pray for Menzie, the Jehovah's Witness from Durban. We stayed at a real nice hotel. I was very thankful the folks there in Phoenix put us up. Real nice place. Every time I've gone down to Durban, I've run along Umhlanga Rocks Beach, the promenade there. and it's about it's 2.5K or so. So you do one lap, it's 5. So, and it's just beautiful. I've gotten some gorgeous pictures of the sunrise over the ocean because you're right along the ocean. So I saw that we were 2.5 kilometers from there. So I said, okay, I'm going to do a warm-up walk of 2.5K down to the beach, and then I'm going to do a 10K, and then I'll do 2.5X, it'll be 15K. That'll make for a real good workout. The problem is the only day I could do it was Saturday morning, and we had a debate Friday night that went really late, got to bed after midnight, and to get up and dressed and walk down there all before sunrise meant I only got 4 hours of sleep. So I planned to get some, I did get some sleep later in the day, thankfully. But anyway, I was like, look, I'm here. You don't get to do this very often. This is, I pushed myself to do it. So picture this, all right? I'm walking out. I get down to the beach, and you're just starting to see a little light in the sky. This is the picture I took. And this actually is much brighter than it was at that time. But you know how pictures can brighten stuff up. So I walked out onto the pier, and I wanted to get a shot like that. And as I walk out, there's this guy. There's one person on the pier, just one person, standing at the end of the pier, facing out toward the ocean, and he looks like he's preaching. He looks like he's preaching. And I'm like, So I take this picture, and I guess in taking that picture, that got his attention. And he said, oh, I didn't know anybody was out here. And I said, didn't mean to interrupt your preaching. And he says, no, that's okay. I was just thinking about, Psalms 1:1. And he shows me his Bible. And, oh, good grief. Okay. Anyway, stuff coming across Twitter. So the thought crossed my mind, and I decided to go for it. I just put my hand on his shoulder. He's a young guy. And I said, well, actually, I'm a Bible professor. And I said, just want to point out to you, it's Psalm 1:1, not Psalms 1:1, because you would never tell someone to look up hymns 106. You'd look up hymn 106. And so that's Psalm 1. And he's like, oh, I had never thought about that. Thank you. So you're a Bible professor. I'd love to. I really want to learn more and more. And he closes his Bible. First thing I notice is it's held together by packing tape. And then the second thing I notice immediately is it's a New World Translation of Jehovah's Witnesses. So I looked at the Bible and I said, so you're one of Jehovah's Witnesses? Yes, I am, but I'm open to learning. Very open-minded. So I directed him to material on YouTube and started my run. And after the first turnaround, I'm like, I should have given him something more. I'd love to send him like a Bible, And so when I ran back past the pier, I looked out there and I couldn't see him. So I was like, well, I think he's really seemed interested. So I have a feeling he's going to look that stuff up. So I ran the 10K, ran it faster than I had in a long time because there were people all over the place. You don't want someone older than you running past you, so you had to work harder. It does help the competition. So I was at like 9.8K. I was pushing through the last bit when I glanced to my left, and who's sitting on one of the benches but this young fellow. So I finish up 10K. I come back to him. I'm still breathing hard. And I want to give him my email address. He's got nothing to write with, and I certainly don't. So I give him my phone number and, offer to send him material, things like that. That's when I find out his name is Menzie, and he's studying real estate or something along those lines. He had sand all over his feet, and he had taken his shoes off. He had gone walking on the beach, and his pants were all wet because he had gone right out to the edge and stuff like that. And so we had a brief conversation, but I gave him my contact information. So pray that Menzie will, get in touch so we can send them a real Bible. But can you imagine being one of Jehovah's Witnesses out in the dark at the end of a pier in Durban, South Africa? And one person in the darkness approaches you, and it's me. The guy you can then go on YouTube and watch the debates with Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, someone's got a target on my back. And it's like, yeah, let's hope so. I do hope that there will be a target on your back. But I actually have it. Oh, here's the pier. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? That's really gorgeous. You can blow that. Yeah, look at that. So that's where we were talking right there. That's where we were. That's where I took the first picture. And so that was the pier. It goes out, and there's actually a lighthouse. Let me see if I got. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, check that out. Isn't that nice? It's just a beautiful. You can see why I want to run there at sunrise. It's a beautiful place. It really is. Now, I don't run the sand. That would be better for you, but you certainly ain't going to set a record in your 10K running there. But you can sort of see over here. Oh, okay. Some people just don't want to look at my pictures. Fine. You can see some of the promenade going along there. And this is pretty much the same area where Menzies was, actually. This is pretty much where I ran into him. So, but hold on. Let me get one of the best ones here. Yeah, now check that out. I mean, that's calendar level quality. You can see a cruise ship out here, or it might not be a cruise ship. Sort of looks like a cruise ship, but it might not be. It could be just a standard vessel. But you can see why I want to run along that particular area. So, anyways, there's Menzies. So here is the Universal Challenge, an invitation to rational thinking and comparative religion from Iqra. And here is the great debate. What did Jesus preach? Christianity or Islam? Evidence in the Bible and Quran. There's me. There's Ayoob Karim. And then look at the title underneath it. Iqra, to tame an American great white on South African shores. As soon as I posted that, Summer put up a picture of a great white coming up, and if it's a shark, she's gonna be all over that. Her fascination with sea creatures sometimes is a little weird. Anyway, so we saw that as soon as we got in, we grabbed it. Here's Ayoob Karim, and the moderator and timekeeper here, but you'll notice that Ayoob had a shiny suit on that night, and the light. Oh my goodness, we both had the same problem. There was no shading, there was no filtering on it. It was just two mega bright lights right in our eyes. So if you would look up to try to look at the audience, first I could barely see the audience because these lights are so bright. But then when you'd try to look back down to your notes, your eyes are, as time would go by, are just covered with those bright light flashes, to where it was almost impossible to read your notes after a while. Just some of the fun stuff that you go through. So during the break and then after, we had some great conversations, and these three guys especially, I had a really good conversation with. They're really listening. They were listening to both sides, and I really appreciate that. And they came, let me show you. They came the second night. Here they are. There we are. This is the second night. This is after the debate with Yusuf Ismail. So same guys. And so they traveled to do both, and we had really good conversations. We really did. Pray for them and for the conversation there. So the debate the first night. Look, it's not too difficult to demonstrate that Jesus taught Christianity and not Islam. What the Muslim does is they go for similarities where, they always go to the rich young ruler, and Jesus said, keep the commandments, and that's what Muslims do. And I just point out at the beginning, that's not enough. The reality is that we have to look at what separates us. And once we've done that, we ask the question, did Jesus, on which side of those issues that separate us did Jesus teach? And so it's not that difficult to present numerous texts. And I did from Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So I went from all four Gospels. Presented material where Jesus taught things that the Islamic Jesus could never say. And so, not much of a challenge on that level. But you're dealing with the standard objections. And look, you have to always deal with the standard objections. It's sort of like, over the years, how many times anyone who's witnessed to Mormons as often as we have, you've gone over James 2:20 so many times that you could do it in a comatose state. But you have to keep doing it. And you have to do it as well the last time as you did the first time. Because it may be the first time this person's ever heard it. And so the same thing in this situation. I wasn't looking for Ayoob Karim to add something new to the Islamic-Christian dialogue because he represents Ahmadiyya, and Ahmadiyya didn't do that either. So the second night, I was sort of hoping for a little bit, and it did add something, I think, to the dialogue. But the debate was on whether the Quran is uncreated, and Yusuf said some things that I think he's going to have to be answering for amongst the Muslims. At one point, he quoted somebody who said that the Quran is fundamentally a response to Muhammad's mind. Now, most Muslims I know believe that the Quran existed forever on an eternal tablet in heaven and that there's not even a fingerprint of man on it. So to turn it into something that is a response to Muhammad's mind, I think for most of them is sort of like, whoa, really? What? And it ended up getting, Yusuf went off into all sorts of stuff. At some point during the cross-examination, he's asking me, he repeated the error that he made in the Gray Street Mosque about John 1:1. Remember where I played Dan Wallace recorded like a 10-minute audio file explaining where he was wrong, and he repeated it anyways? I was like, Yusuf, dude, you've just got to stop doing this. You're just wrong about this. But anyway, so we were talking about all sorts of stuff, and I had to say to him, what does this have to do with the Quran being uncreated, by the way? And he eventually went back, and we talked a lot about Zainab bin Jash, which I had brought up in the conversation. Anyways, during the audience Q&A. Now, by the way, this is an Anglican church, a very liberal Anglican church. And we had this woman had come up to us who had been at the last debate, and she said, I'm not going to be staying here because you are too hostile. And she's from the church. Anyway, I'm not even going to go there. We just referred to her as Snowflake Lady. Just your standard, so far on the left Anglican that it's just, anyway. It was just, you come up to the Christian speaker, and the previous debate had been on predestination and election. Obviously had not, she would have fled from the debate the night before, because Ayoob and I, our people in the audience started vocally participating, shall we say. There were some Allahu Akbars going on and a lot of amens going on, and she never would have survived it. Just never would have survived it. Just, ugh. Anyway. She was. So this fellow in this picture that I'm gesturing to, who's holding an open Bible, gets up and asks a question. It's an Ahmadiyya question. It's based upon the Kama Yohanim at 1 John 5:7. Surprise, surprise, surprise. I've done a lot of work on 1 John 5:7 over the years. He asked the question based upon the footnote in the Good News Bible. That's what he's holding there. And so, but there were also all sorts of false assumptions that he made in his question, all sorts of them. And so I started to answer, and he walked back to his seat. Well, I could see where he was. I could see him from where I was sitting. And I'm still talking. And he starts talking to the guy next to him. So now what are you going to do in a situation like that? I'm moving pretty quickly towards 60 years of age, and I'm noticing something. I'm becoming more and more like Clint Eastwood in his old movies. I mean his new movies, where he's old. Get off my lawn. with a gun in your hand. And I just look at this guy and I just called him out straight up front. I stopped answering the question. I said, sir, you walked up here and asked me a question. I'm answering your question, and you're not even listening to the response, which means it wasn't a question for you. You're trying to make an objection, but you don't care whether it's a truthful objection or not, because you're not even listening to the response. We've got to get past this, people. And you can just sort of see everybody in the audience is just sort of, I mean, the speaker's calling this questioner out. I did. I called him out. Well, once the debate was over, he comes up to my table, and you'll notice that here's the, right here, here, and here are the three Muslims from the night before. So they're listening. And he's like, Dr. White, let me explain. I said, I know what you're going to say. Are you willing to listen to a response? Well, but you just need to hear what I said, I don't care what the Good News Bible says. Let me tell you the truth. And so some of the guys around, hey, just listen to what he has to say. So I went through a whole thing about Codex Monfortianus and 1 John 5:7, the Comma Johanneum, and the da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I gave it all to him, gave him a little bit of a history of the TR and everything, just served on a platter. And I get done, and he says, but I just want you to understand. And he reads the footnote, which gives the three witnesses and then says, this is not found in any manuscript before the 16th century. And I said, I just got done telling you that. In fact, I even told you which manuscript is first found in. And so I turned to the other guys. I turned to the other Muslims. And I said, guys, didn't I tell him what he's now trying to tell me? And all the Muslims are going, yep, sure did. So once the Muslims were like, yeah, he already answered your question, dude, then he sort of, oh, okay. And eventually, and you see I'm gesturing to him, I went after this guy. I really did. I was saying, look, I'll tell you what. I said, I've written a book called The Forgotten Trinity. You get a hold of it. It's available on Kindle, so you can get down here easier. When I come back to Durban the next time, I will take you out to dinner if you will read The Forgotten Trinity, and we will talk about what it says. And eventually he gave us his contact information, and it all went well. But I was straightforward, just a little bit straightforward in talking to him about what was going on there, because it was important. So that's what was going on down there. And then I did do a radio program on 6:57 in the morning that we flew down to Durban. Yeah. With Tyrell Hogg. It's Tyrell Hogg here. Unfortunately, we thought it was from 9 to 10. And so we planned our getting to the airport, and that's what I was working with when I had you change the flight times so we'd have enough time to get there. The program was from 9 to 11. So we get to the top of the hour, I'm sort of gathering my stuff together, and he's very clearly expecting I'm going to be there for another hour. And we're like, no. And so I was disappointed. I didn't mean to disappoint him. But I stayed till 20 after. And we still made it in plenty of time. We were fine. But I stayed till 20 after. So I did an hour and 20 instead of 2 hours. But it ended up, what was funny was he started the program by reading from my book on grieving about the story that introduces the whole book. When Summer was 7, and I'd sort of forgotten part of that story. And it's heavy. I mean, it's really very heavy stuff. And then he goes, so tell us a little something about yourself. How'd you get into apologetics? I'm like, I'm sorry, you can't read that and then just leave it hanging there. And so I immediately dove into the story behind the book, and we did a whole hour and 20 minutes on grieving, which I've done many times, but man, it's just so heavy and it's so hard. I know a lot of people are helped by it and stuff, but it's talk about leaving your batteries drained. That is a topic that leaves your batteries drained. That and the social justice movement, the two of them together, definitely leave my batteries drained all the time. So, like I said, the ministry at Antioch Bible Church down there, and then we at the church there in Phoenix with Adrian Pillay and the elders there. I'm so thankful they turned one of the fans on, though. I mean, it may be spring down there, but it was very, very warm. I was losing it. But we did Psalm 33 with them and had a wonderful time with the guys there. They're just lovely believers. It is wonderful to have those connections and to see faithful men ministering in those places. It is a fulfillment of Christ's promise. He's building his church. He really, really is. And getting to visit Uncle Dennis, or as he in the story he told us, Uncle Bubby. Again, only they are laughing. There is only a small number of people in Durban, South Africa, and one guy in Johannesburg, Randburg. They're laughing right now, but it was really funny. And it's fun to have experiences like that all around the world. It really, that was the first house that I've tasted rooibos tea in, and I ate Indian curry there just because Uncle Dennis is Uncle Dennis, and so you eat curry when you're at Uncle Dennis's house, and even though they made it mild for me because I'm just that, I have to. You don't want to kill the poor guy from the United States, but it is. It's awesome to get a chance to minister in places like that. And look, I know this, but we can do that because you all support the travel fund. We've got 2 more overseas trips already, just this year. And Australia is a long, long trip. So if you want to keep hearing stories like this, if you want to help us keep making these kinds of memories, the travel fund is one way. All of you who've given to that, when you see these pictures and you see me standing in majority Muslim context, you made that possible. You made that possible. We couldn't do it without you. And we don't have big, rich people who take care of this kind of stuff. We really don't. We've had people show up once in a while in the past, but that never lasts. It's always just the folks that go, yeah, I like, this year we've seen pictures of you in Samara, Russia, and in London and South Africa, and now you're going to Australia. The Netherlands. Netherlands, yes. You've just been, that was December. Well, yeah, but I didn't do anything there. I'm sorry. The Frankfurt airport does not count. If you're gonna do something in Germany, then you got to get out of the airport and go speak someplace. Anyway, we've been all over the place, and the only reason we can keep going all over the place is because you folks make it possible. So support us and support the travel fund, and that makes it all possible. We are looking at least one debate in Australia. So we've got one debate in Salt Lake City, one debate in Australia. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I got 5. Yeah, it's going to be a major eruption of debates that you can access once all these videos get posted. We'll be well on our way to approaching the 200 mark. And unlike certain people from back like in 2010 that made up stories about doing debates, you can actually watch all of ours or listen to them. Almost all of them. There's still a couple early ones, and then that one with the Armenian attorney guy who did a really good job, but they just didn't bother to record it. I forget what year that was, but a lot of them, the vast majority of them, are still available to either listen to or watch on YouTube. So we very, very thankful for those opportunities. So you might say, but you didn't talk about any of the stuff that happened back here while you were gone. Something happened back here while I was gone? That's because And by the way, I'm just going to throw this out here just because this isn't, but there are a couple people in South Africa. Now, right now, we are making inquiries about going back in March. March isn't all that far off. Going to Cape Town. Because the guys in Cape Town, we've sort of been ignoring them. We've gone down there 6 times. We've been there once. And there are 3 major cities. You got Johannesburg, Durban, and Cape Town. And so we want to get back to Cape Town. There's a reason for doing this at that particular point in time, too, that we'll get into. But I had a couple conversations with people. And South Africa is swimming in social Marxism and critical theory and feminism and intersectionality. Just swimming in it. And so a certain Summer Yeager has a lot of fans down there that would love to see her come down and do some teaching on feminism and things like that in that area. And so sort of throwing that out there, and that would be very enjoyable. I'd certainly expand her horizons a good bit, obviously. But for me, getting a global perspective, and it's one thing to go to London, but there are, when you think about places that are most like the U.S., UK is going to be one of those places. It's going to be most like the United States. South Africa, I think there are 18 dialects normally spoken in South Africa, but everybody can speak English. You'll hear Afrikaans, and you hear, like I said, all these different African dialects as well, but everybody can speak English. So you can minister there very, very effectively. And yet, you'll also see those third world sections as well as the first world sections. It's a study in contrast. It really is. But that's certainly something we're thinking about. It'd be wonderful if the Lord would make a way available for that to happen. I just don't know how exactly it would, but we will see. So keep that in mind. And I am the world's worst marketer and advertiser. But let me remind you that in 2020, late September, we are going on a cruise. And it's not like a lot of the cruises we've gone on in the past. In fact, it's not like any of the cruises we've gone on in the past. This itinerary takes us from Rome, Athens, Ephesus to Israel. And utilizing the fact that Israel is a very small nation, incredibly small nation, you can simply go to the various port cities in Israel and take a bus anywhere. And it doesn't take you long to get there. I mean, if you got on a bus in Tel Aviv and just headed straight west to the border, it would take you about 40 minutes, maybe, at most, and you'd be out of Israel. That's how narrow it is, just straight across. So being able to get anywhere from those port cities is very, very easy. And so the advantage of this is you unpack once, you sleep on the boat, and you don't have to be packing, unpacking, lugging your luggage from place to place to place to place. That's the big advantage of being able to do it this way. And seeing Ephesus and Athens, just throw it in there. And Rome, for the fun of it. No big deal. So the details are at aomin.org. We're doing this along with Apologia, so Jeff Durbin and I will be doing Lion's share of the teaching. And obviously we're really jazzed about it, being able to teach in places like Capernaum or Bethsaida or Jerusalem or wherever else is a tremendous honor. But it'll also be a lot of work for us especially. But we're willing to do it. And I know it's funny. I've talked to people in South Africa knew all about it. People in Australia know all about it. Word has gotten out. And there are a lot of people just would love to do it. But especially people down, it's not all that expensive to get from South Africa to Rome. But I have a feeling we're going to have a lot of Europeans because they're right there. That's the easiest for them. The rest of us have to pay to get there. But it's a bucket list trip. That's just the only way to put it. It's a bucket list trip. It's a once in a lifetime thing. And we're still over a year out on it. And but don't let that lull you into thinking that I can worry about it next summer. No, you won't. Another group is doing the same itinerary, and they have a 300-person wait list. So keep that in mind. But I need to keep reminding folks about it because it will be an amazing thing, and will also help me toward my status for the year after. Because hey, look, folks, I'm executive platinum. I'm top tier. I don't think I would travel if I wasn't. I'll be honest with you. At my age, I don't know that I'd be able to travel if I wasn't, because you need all the advantages you can get. And when you show up, if it takes you 3 days to recover from your trip, you're pretty much useless to everybody in the process. And so I'm very thankful to be executive platinum on American because it helps me get here, there, and everywhere. So with that, obviously, I imagine we will try to do this again tomorrow, and that'll be time to deal with any developments that have been going on back here. And there have been, obviously. But I just didn't want to talk about that stuff. Had a great trip to South Africa. It's a troubled country. There's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of violence, murder, property crime, and things like that. Yes. But it's also a beautiful land with beautiful people. And there are good churches there. And there's a lot of people that are leaving. And that's hurting some of the churches there. But there's still a huge area of missions. And I love South Africa. And in fact, the World Cup of Rugby is starting in about 2 weeks in Japan. And the South African Springboks are sort of favored. I mean, they handed the All Blacks from New Zealand a drubbing recently, beat Australia too. So there's a lot of excitement down there about that. And I'm sort of excited about it too. I'm going to be trying to watch those matches online myself. So, and in fact, the funny thing is, while I was traveling, one last thing, I'll try to take it to 3:15, nice even time. While people in the U.S. were talking about Andrew Luck's retirement and the damage that football does to the body, the rest of the world was ignoring that and was stunned by the test cricket match called the Ashes between Australia and England. Now, I've known about the Ashes for years because first time I went down to Australia, I think they were playing at that time. And I think I've told the story, the Ashes were being played in Australia when Phil Johnson and I were in Brisbane a number of years ago. And he and I were sitting in the little apartment that he was in, watching the Ashes, trying to figure this game out. Because cricket, I've thought about buying a book, Understanding Cricket, but I think it's about yay thick. And so I just haven't had time to get to it. But I've had it explained to me. David's tried to explain it to me, and people in England have tried to explain it to me. And I'm starting to get it. I sort of understand. I know how you can score the runs and stuff like that. But the Ashes is one of the biggest things that goes on. And Phil and I were watching one day, and this Australian guy was real close to the batter. And that cricket ball is much harder than a baseball. And that the England batter hit it, and it hit this Australian guy directly in the face, right in the mouth. And he's bleeding, and he just spits out some teeth because it knocked a few teeth out. And then they went and had tea. Then they went and had tea. Because that's what you do. Oh, let's have tea now. Okay, we're gonna have tea. Oh, cool. So anyway, there was this one batter. I mentioned his name on Twitter, and I've already forgotten it. There are people actually suggesting this guy be knighted by the Queen because he single-handedly put on a performance batting in this test match that was epic and kept England alive by his one. And that's what all the world was talking about. They're all excited about the Rugby World Cup because France and it's basically New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, and France. Those are the big four. So they're all excited about it. And then the other thing was cricket. And so that would mean Pakistan, India. Cricket's huge in those places because of colonialism. They still play it and they love it. So everywhere I went in Heathrow, that was what was up on the screens. They're replaying this guy's epic performance in cricket. So it was a little bit of a different thing. So global traveler, there you go. That's what happens. So anyways, thanks for listening. I assume we're going to look at the same time tomorrow, and we'll obviously not be talking about the trip to South Africa at that point, but we have other things we will be dealing with. So thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. God bless.